Hi, everyone. Today I'm going to be reading this week's nonfiction article. It is titled The Fish That's Eating the World. So I'm going to read the article to you, the vocabulary, and the pause and think questions. So let's get started. Our vocabulary for this article is insatiable, which means always wanting more, impossible to satisfy. Native, which means living or growing naturally in a particular place. Invaded, which means that you entered a place in a harmful way. Coral is a hard material formed on the bottom of the sea by the skeletons of small creatures. And humanely is in a way that is kind or gentle to people or animals. Okay, so here we go. Lionfish are taking over the Atlantic Ocean. Can these dangerous creatures be stopped before it's too late? You move slowly with the confidence of a king. You destroy any animal that crosses your path. Your hunger is insatiable. You eat and eat and eat. You sneak up on your dinner until, bam, you swallow it whole. So what are you? A shark? A grizzly bear? A monster from a fairy tale? No, you're a lionfish. You're about the size of a football. And right now, you're causing big problems in our seas. Here's your first pause and think question. What do you know about lionfish so far? So based on what I just read here, what do you know about lionfish? Beautiful creatures. Lionfish are native to the warm waters of the Pacific and Indian Oceans, but in the past 30 years, they've invaded the Atlantic. Some lionfish now swim off the U.S. coast from North Carolina to Florida. Others live in the Caribbean Sea and the Gulf of Mexico. We can't be sure how lionfish got to the Atlantic, but humans are likely to blame. In the 1980s, American pet stores began selling baby lionfish. These creatures are beautiful. People wanted them for their home fish tanks. But lionfish are not suited for life in a fish tank. They eat the other fish, and they can grow to be 18 inches long in just a few years. Experts think people dumped their pets into the sea when the fish got too big. People probably thought it was okay to put lionfish in the Atlantic. The ocean is the ocean, right? Wrong. All right, here's your second pause and think question. How did the lionfish likely end up in the Atlantic Ocean? You can find that answer right here in this section. Okay, next section, total disaster. Lionfish are what is known as an invasive species. That's an animal or planet from one area that invades a new area and causes harm. Lionfish are changing the environment in the Atlantic Ocean. How? For one thing, they eat a lot of fish and shellfish. They eat 1 or 2 fish per minute, and they don't stop when they're full. Their stomachs balloon out to make room for more. Sometimes they eat until they make themselves sick. Lionfish don't leave much food for other fish. As a result, many fish in areas with a lot of lionfish could die out. Here's your third pause and think question. What is an invasive species? And you can find that answer in this section titled Total Disaster. Coral reefs. There's another problem. Lionfish harm coral reefs. Coral reefs are long lines of coral that often lie in warm, shallow water. They provide food and shelter for millions of types of fish and plants. They protect coastlines during storms too. Lionfish like to live near coral reefs, and they're ruining an important balance. They eat the fish that usually eat sea plants called algae. As a result, there is too much algae on coral reefs. Algae can damage the reefs and even kill them. The problem is hard to solve. Lionfish breed quickly. A female can release 30,000 eggs every few days. So the number of lionfish in the Atlantic keeps growing. Okay, here's our next pause and think question. Why is the number of lionfish growing so quickly? And that's right in this section titled Coral Reefs. Okay, so why is the number of lionfish growing so quickly? Next section. Not the first time. Lionfish aren't the first invasive species to cause problems. About 4,300 invasive species live in the U.S. Fish called Asian carp are in the Mississippi River. Millions of wild hogs run across Texas. The Burmese python has taken over a national park in Florida. These invaders can do real harm. In the 1880s, mongooses were brought to Hawaii to kill rats on farms, but they ate birds and turtles too. Now, many of those species in Hawaii are in danger of dying out. Could lionfish cause the same sort of trouble in the Atlantic? Experts say yes. Okay, here's your fifth pause and think question. What did mongooses do in Hawaii? So what did the mongooses do in Hawaii? You can find that answer in this section titled Not the First Time. Okay, last section. What can be done? Experts are working to solve the lionfish problem. They say there are things we can do to keep these fish under control. First, we can make sure that no non-native pets like lionfish are released into the wild. Second, we can report lionfish sightings. The Reef Environmental Education Foundation, or REEF, has trained scuba divers to hunt lionfish. Anyone who spots a lionfish can tell REEF. Within 24 hours, divers will find and humanely kill the fish. And third, a tasty plan. We can eat them. In 2010, Reef put out a cookbook. It shows people how to prepare lionfish. Now people know that the fish can be tasty. They're even sold in some grocery stores. As for you, lionfish, we know it's not your fault that you're here. You're just a hungry fish looking for a meal, or several. All right, last pause and think question. What are 3 ways to keep lionfish under control? So all 3 ways to keep lionfish under control are all in this section. What can be done? Here's the first, second, and third.